The question landed like a quiet explosion in the middle of an ordinary workday, the kind that changes the temperature of a room without anyone noticing right away. Sunlight poured through the glass walls of the office, dust floating lazily in the air, coffee cooling on desks, spreadsheets open and half forgotten. When his boss asked why he would not date, it was not said sharply or cruelly, just with passing curiosity, yet something in the single father's chest folded inward. He felt old memories stir, memories he kept sealed behind routines and responsibilities, memories that still knew how to hurt. Some wounds, no matter how much daylight you pour over them, never fully heal. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of people who keep going even when life has taken almost everything from them, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Matters. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Ethan Rowe had learned how to live in daylight. His mornings began before sunrise, but by the time the city fully woke up, he was already moving with practiced precision, dropping his daughter off at school under a pale blue sky, her small hand waving from the school gate as the sun climbed higher. He worked in a glass and steel building downtown, a place designed to let in as much light as possible, as if brightness itself could keep sadness away. From the outside, his life looked stable, even admirable. He was dependable, efficient, and quietly kind. He met deadlines, remembered birthdays in the office, fixed printers without being asked, and brought extra muffins on Fridays. People saw him as calm, reserved, maybe a little lonely, but never broken. What no one saw was how carefully he had built this life to avoid falling apart. Every hour of his day had a purpose. Every task kept him from thinking too deeply. Love, romance, and the risk of closeness were luxuries he believed he could no longer afford. When his boss, Maren Holt, noticed this pattern, it was not because she was prying, but because she had a habit of seeing the people behind the work. Maren was the kind of leader who noticed exhaustion hidden behind competence, who sensed silence where laughter used to live. She had watched Ethan turn down every invitation that hinted at more than friendship, had seen him gently deflect questions with polite smiles. That day, the office was bathed in late morning light, the hum of productivity steady and unremarkable. Maren's question had come without ceremony, spoken softly, almost thoughtfully, yet it struck Ethan harder than any accusation ever could. It forced him to confront a truth he had learned to avoid naming. He felt the weight of years press against his ribs, the echo of a life that once included dreams he no longer allowed himself to imagine. Ethan had not always been this careful. There was a time when he believed love was something that could survive anything. In those memories, the sun always seemed brighter, the days longer. He had been younger then, hopeful, certain that building a family was the greatest purpose a person could have. He had fallen in love with a woman who laughed easily, whose presence made ordinary afternoons feel like celebrations. Together, they talked about futures that felt solid and warm, full of shared mornings and growing children. When their daughter was born, the world narrowed to something perfect and fragile, a tiny life that depended on them both. The loss came suddenly, cruelly, on a bright afternoon that should have been forgettable. An accident that no amount of planning could have prevented, a phone call that split time into before and after. Grief did not arrive all at once. It seeped in slowly, filling every corner of his life, stealing color from the days. He learned how to function because he had to. A baby still needed feeding, diapers still needed changing, rent still needed paying. He learned to smile because people expected it. He learned to carry pain quietly because there was no room for it in the practical demands of survival. Raising his daughter alone taught him a different kind of love, fierce and unyielding, but it also taught him fear. Fear of attachment. Fear of loss repeating itself. Fear that opening his heart again would mean inviting devastation back in. So he made a decision, never spoken aloud but reinforced every day, that his life would be about stability, not passion. About presence, not risk. About giving his child everything he could, even if it meant denying himself the chance to be fully alive. Maren sensed this long before she understood it. She noticed how Ethan's eyes softened when he talked about his daughter, how his posture straightened when responsibility called. She noticed the way he lingered in the office just a little longer than necessary, as if work was a safe place to exist without expectation. Her own life had taught her about loss and resilience, and she recognized the signs in him. When she asked her question, it was not meant to intrude, but to open a door he had sealed shut. Ethan did not answer right away. He returned to his desk, the glow of the computer screen suddenly harsh against his eyes. The rest of the day unfolded as usual, meetings attended, emails sent, tasks completed, all under the steady watch of the sun moving across the sky. Yet something had shifted. The question echoed in his mind, growing louder as the hours passed. By the time afternoon arrived, shadows stretching longer across the floor, he felt a tightness in his chest that routine could not ease. At lunch, he sat alone on a bench outside, the warmth of the sun on his face, watching people pass by. Couples laughed as they walked. Co-workers shared meals. Strangers brushed past each other without noticing. Life continued, vibrant and indifferent. He thought about how long it had been since he allowed himself to want anything beyond the safety of predictability. He thought about the quiet evenings spent helping with homework, cooking simple dinners, reading bedtime stories, and how full and empty those moments could feel at the same time. When he picked his daughter up from school later that afternoon, the sky was a clear, confident blue. She ran toward him, backpack bouncing, her face lit with uncomplicated joy. In her presence, the world made sense again. She talked excitedly about her day, about a class project, about a friend who shared snacks. Ethan listened, nodding, smiling, his heart swelling with pride and love. Yet even in that moment, Marin's question lingered, weaving itself into his thoughts. He wondered what lessons he was teaching his child without meaning to. He wondered if safety alone was enough. Days passed, all of them bright with the steady assurance of daylight. But something inside Ethan had been awakened. He noticed small things he had learned to ignore. The way laughter echoed in the office break room. The warmth of human connection during casual conversations. The subtle loneliness that crept in during quiet afternoons. Marin did not press him for answers. Instead, she treated him with the same respect and kindness as always, giving him space to sit with his thoughts. One afternoon, during a company volunteer event held at a community center flooded with sunlight, Ethan watched Marin interact with others. He saw her patience, her genuine care, her ability to hold space for people without trying to fix them. It stirred something unfamiliar, a reminder that kindness could exist without demands. That caring did not always lead to loss. He felt a cautious curiosity take root, fragile but persistent. At home, as evening light filtered through the windows, Ethan found himself reflecting on the years he had spent protecting himself. He remembered the early days after his loss, the promises he made to stay strong, to never let his daughter feel the absence of love. He realized how those promises had slowly turned into walls, high and unyielding. He had kept pain out, but he had also kept possibility away. The realization was not comforting. It was frightening, like standing at the edge of something vast and unknown. The next day at work, as sunlight streamed across the conference table, Ethan found himself opening up, not with words, but with presence. He allowed himself to laugh more freely, to engage without retreating. Marin noticed, her expression gentle, understanding. There was no pressure, no expectation, just a shared acknowledgement of change. It felt like the first deep breath he had taken in years. Weeks went by, each day marked by the ordinary brilliance of daylight. Ethan's life did not transform overnight. He did not suddenly become fearless. But he began to allow himself small moments of vulnerability. He spoke about his daughter with more openness, shared stories from his past without immediately retreating into silence. The weight he carried did not disappear, but it shifted, becoming something he could hold without collapsing under it. One afternoon, while walking his daughter home under a golden sun, she asked him a simple question about happiness. It was the kind of innocent curiosity only a child could have, unburdened by history. Ethan paused, feeling the gravity of her trust. He realized then that happiness was not something he could protect her from losing. It was something he had to show her how to pursue, even when it came with risk. That night, as daylight faded slowly, he sat by the window and allowed himself to imagine a future that included connection. Not as a replacement for what he had lost, but as an expansion of what he still had. He thought about how love did not erase grief, but could exist alongside it. The idea felt both terrifying and hopeful, like standing in the sun after years in the shade. Maren never asked her question again. She did not need to. She saw the answer in the way Ethan carried himself now, in the lightness that occasionally broke through his careful composure. Their interactions remained professional, respectful, yet something unspoken had changed. Ethan had been given a mirror, and what he saw there was not weakness, but endurance. Not failure, but survival. Life continued, as it always does, under the watchful presence of the sun. Ethan's days were still full of responsibility, still structured around his daughter's needs, but they were no longer devoid of personal hope. He began to understand that dating, loving, risking heartbreak again was not a betrayal of his past, but an honoring of it. The love he had lost had taught him how deeply he could feel. Denying himself that capacity did not protect anyone. It only diminished the fullness of his life. Near the end of summer, during a company gathering held outdoors, sunlight spilling across picnic tables and laughter floating freely, Ethan felt a sense of peace he had not known in years. He watched his colleagues, his daughter playing nearby, and Maren standing at a distance, smiling softly. In that moment, he understood why the question had broken her heart. It was not because his answer was tragic, but because it revealed a man who had been quietly carrying more than anyone realized. If this story has touched your heart, if it has reminded you of someone you know or a part of yourself you have been protecting for too long, please take a moment now to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive and reaching the people who need them most. Just before this story ends, there is one small request. Please comment below and share what kindness, second chances, or healing mean to you. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in soft shades of gold and blue, Ethan felt gratitude settle gently within him. Not because everything was fixed, but because he had allowed himself to feel again. Life, he realized, was not about avoiding heartbreak. It was about choosing to live fully in spite of it. And in that understanding, under the quiet reassurance of daylight, he found something that felt very much like hope.